All right, welcome everybody. We'll just give one more minute. Pull up your chat. Where's everyone from? I'm hanging out in Portland, from the UK. Awesome. Hopefully it's not too late there. So great to meet you, Jen and Carol. Artie from Boston, Washington. Oh my gosh, we've global. We've got Arkansas, Berlin, Brooklyn. That actually is where I technically live. I'm riding out this pandemic a little closer to nature in Portland. I feel very, very blessed to be able to do that. England, Toronto. Here's Brittany. Hi, Brittany. Hi, Carol. Hi, Chantel, John, Melanie, Melissa, Pratiya, Rebecca. Oh man, we've got so many folks in here today. I really want you guys to, this is going to be a really big group. I am just unbelievably honored to be in the position where I get to work with you guys and teach you guys something that was so impactful and important for me and my own growth and overcoming imposter syndrome. And I just want you to really tune in, even if you're watching this as a recording, I want you to tune in to just how not alone you are. That's a really powerful thing. We're all here in this community right now. There were literally, I think, 250 people who RSVP'd today. We probably won't get everybody, but and that's just the people who saw the event description and it resonated for them, right? Since I decided to do this a week ago. That is a really profound community of people who are having a shared experience. And I just want you to tap into that truth that you're not alone. That is probably one of the most powerful truths that we can embrace. Awesome. All right, I'm just still admitting people like crazy right now, so I'm not going to get started until I'm more done with that. So let's see, I know 250, right? Isn't that crazy? It's definitely the biggest workshop I've ever done, so I'm so excited because I think it's really good. So you guys are going to enjoy it. It's going to be a good time today. While we're waiting for folks, this is a question I was going to ask later, but I'll just ask now. So imposter syndrome has a bunch of different symptoms for people. We'll talk about that. Also has different costs for people depending on what it is you're trying to accomplish with your life right now. That imposter syndrome might be getting in the way of. And if you're down, like we're here to have like a pretty safe space here, container. If you're down to share, knowing that you are almost certainly not alone in what you're dealing with, if you're down to share in the chat, how is imposter syndrome showing up for you right now? How is it holding you back? Awkward drink of water while I wait for people to in the chat. It's my favorite trick. A reluctance to seek promotion. That is one that I hear all the time with the folks that I work with. I'm not ready. That's what that voice is. One of the case studies I'll share today is struggled with that exact thing. Fear for going more senior role, fear of applying for jobs that you're, maybe you don't even have all the technical requirements. Fear starts to, you're make decisions in that place, right? And you know that doesn't feel right. It's not an integrity. And Ninu gets tilted. I'm learning a new gaming term today. Too easily, and you tilt too easily in the face of adversity because of that self-doubt, right? You can think of that as an opportunity to work on resilience. If we can't quite bounce back, or just the slightest insult will send us toppling over, right? It's just exhausting. Anxiety, at the end of the day, guys, like this is one of those things where I work with a lot of people who are going for promotions. They're going for a raise. They want to work on strategically central things. This is all really important things that that matter, right? But at the end of the day, the goal behind that goal is to have impact and feel awesome. If we're feeling overwrought or overcome with anxiety, if we're suffering from self-criticism all the time, like it's just nothing else really matters. it's a really painful place to be. My own journey on this, I had to overcome depression that stemmed from this just barrage of anxiety on my nervous system that had lasted for so long. So I hope you guys are not struggling with that yet. Analysis paralysis, frozen by fear, hesitancy and self-advocating. And Sarah, thank you for sharing your experience as a survivor and single mother, and not believing that you can learn everything and be successful this late in life. That's not a belief that you were born with, right? And throughout all of this, one of the things that I really want to talk about up front, all of these negative voices in your head, right? You did not originate them. We are all participants in a culture that goes to great lengths to convince us that we're not enough, right? And who benefits from that? Not us, right? The people in power, the people who need us to be productive, hungry, who need us to believe that our output as a professional is tied to our self-worth and our worthiness as a person. That benefits them, not really us, right? So really seeing this for what it is, this is not your fault. This imposter syndrome is not one more thing to be about. And it's also real. It's not just in your head. And anyone who bypasses that or tries to tell you this is all about mindset is full of shit. Fair warning, I will swear just a little bit. I get one F-bomb, but I swear a little bit, and that's kind of part of my style. So we'll talk about that. All right, let's get started. Let's dive in here. I'm gonna flip back and forth between this awesome whiteboard that you might see here. I'll put that into focus in a little bit, but I'll also just share with you my my PowerPoint here. All right, sweet. Did everyone see that all right? Awesome. And let me just get so that I can see the chat also. Amazing. We are leveraging technology, all of these little boxes. Okay, so skip back up to the top here. Welcome to the science of imposter syndrome and exactly what to do about it. Let's dive in. I'll tell you guys exactly what to expect today. I will run through this intro to who I am and what we're going to talk about and the promises that I want to make to you guys over the course of this workshop today. We're then going to do an overview of the 3 components of imposter syndrome, because if you don't understand what's actually physically happening with imposter syndrome, it's impossible to address it. We'll also talk about the science behind each component. This knowledge is incredibly powerful. We'll then go into an exercise where you use these 3 components to create a new imposter-free persona. So think of it as creating a user persona for those of you who are in product, which I think is most of you. And then with whatever time we have at the end, I am here to be a resource for you. Why would you bother to stick around for that? Well, my name is Becca. I professionally help women in product go from imposter syndrome to big impact, executive presence, and influence at work. Call it confidence, call it whatever you want. All of these things are a side effect of you being in full alignment with how powerful you are. And imposter syndrome, there's just no room for it, right? You're not going to be able to get to where you're destined to be with this backpack full of bricks on. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I run a community called Fearless Femmes to actually do this. It is an insanely powerful, holistic, integral program where there's a course, there is a community, a super robust, engaged community, and really powerful integral coaching to get you where you need to be. So my promises to you for this workshop, no rhetorical questions. If you don't have the chat opened up already, get it. I hate talking at people. I'm really curious about what you are actually going through, and I want to respond to your version of this, your flavor of imposter syndrome that you are struggling with. That'll help me make this super, super powerful for you. No rhetorical questions. Answer everything that I ask in the chat. I have an authentic style, as I mentioned. I'm prone to swearing just a little bit, but again, only one F-bomb and I'll go crazy. I'm fast. I am a little bit scrappy. I like to move around a lot. So like I'll go to wherever is most going to be most high for you in terms of impact and visual. You guys, super powerful, potent information in a structured way. Let me just admit a few more people here. We got one more deluge. All right. Promise number 3, I will give you all the help that I can in the next, 52 minutes that we've got. I am a coach. Yes, I get paid for it. It's awesome, but I am here to no strings attached, deliver something that is going to make you feel way better, way more around imposter syndrome. However, if you do stay till the end of the call or this end of this meeting, you will learn how to get more help if you want it, but only if you want it. I'm happy to talk about the program, my coaching, whatever you want. And I do want to just answer questions and be helpful for you guys in this hour and give as much individual coaching as I can. You will leave here with 3 things: an understanding of the science behind imposter syndrome. We understand it, actually. There's no mystery here. It's going to feel really good to get to wrap your mind around that. A clear goal, clarity begets confidence, and a simple daily action plan to overcome imposter syndrome. That's it. So if you've got your Post-it note, that's what we're going to for. You are going to put this Post-it note on something you look at every day, your mirror, your laptop, and it's going to be your new commitment. One thing, this work that we're going to do today is sort of a smaller slice. It fits in context to all of this stuff that we talk about in Fearless Femmes. If you look at this big thing, we don't have time today to go through and kind of do a diagnostic on how you're doing on each of these projects. Sometimes I like to do that in workshops, but if you stay to the end, I will let you know how you can get on a call with me and we will do a quick diagnostic one-on-one together and see if Fearless Femmes is actually going to be strategic for you. If you think that there's opportunity to improve on any of these axes, these 9 projects here, then Fearless Femmes could be a really high leverage thing for you to do. Last promise. I didn't make any of this up, literally none of it. One more admission here. In Fearless Femmes and all of my work, I lean on science that is decades old, extremely well understood, reinforced by multiple, more than just our culture, right? I do an integral and holistic sort of approach, finding things that are just going to work best for the people I work with: high achieving, impact-oriented, justice-minded women, right? Men too, by the way. I don't mean to leave any of you out if you are of the male persuasion. But these are just some of the books that I use. I'm happy to put this out as a resource if you want to dive deeper into any of this, but basically I just kind of am trying to do that work for you. This is just some of the resources that I pull from. I am making it literally 0 of this is not just my, magic. This is stuff that you can, is scientific. Could everyone just mute really quick? I think I've got a couple people just to make sure. Okay, so what's imposter syndrome? Any syndrome is defined very broadly as a collection of symptoms, right? So imposter syndrome is a collection of symptoms, your unique little special snowflake flavor of it, that results in you questioning whether or not you are competent and feeling afraid of being discovered as a fraud, right? It is inspired ultimately by fear of something new or unfamiliar. Hopefully this resonates with you guys, right? This is sort of this is one of the core theses about understanding imposter syndrome, is understanding that there is a little bit of a break in reality, right? I think most of you probably know on some level that you're deeply competent and can figure anything out, right? But when imposter syndrome has been kind of just running the show for a long time, I mean, that part of you maybe have been a while since you've actually met or interacted or taken action from that part of you that is curious, excited. You may not know what you're going to get in a given high pressure situation, right? Ultimately, imposter syndrome is just this collection of symptoms inspired by fear of something new and unfamiliar. So when we put boundaries, that's when it comes up, right? Uncanny. So what are the costs? We talked about this a little bit earlier. You guys are not asking for promotions. You're not getting paid what you deserve. You're not going for opportunities for impact, even though having impact is all you want, right? You're acting out of alignment with your values and your capability, and the world is missing out, right? Very, very costly to be suffering from imposter syndrome. I don't know if you've looked out the window lately, but we need you out here, okay? So lots of benefit in addressing this. We talked about that already. So let's dive in here. I'm gonna pin or spotlight my whiteboard here. Awesome. I want you guys to pull up the chat and tell me, what are your symptoms? How do you know you have imposter syndrome? Might sound like a weird question, but actually give it a sec and let it sink in. You know, because of a feeling you're having. Anxiety, totally. I'm gonna gonna stand up here. There we go. Anxiety, inaction. You're procrastinating. You're procrastinating because you're feeling what, right? You're not taking action because you're feeling what? It's probably like fear, self-doubt, choke. The choke is such a big one. I hear that a lot. We freeze. What else are we saying? Inaction, self-doubt. Underselling yourself, right? Confusion, so you feel confused. Lack of clarity. Fear. I mean, that kind of sums up all this, really, at the end of the day. Frustration. All right. We'll stop there just because we could go on and on this. Everyone's flavor of this is somewhat different, but you're seeing this list right here. Now you can see that list right there. This sucks, guys. This is like, when I tap into this, when I kind of like actually sit with all of these symptoms, like the pain that you guys are in is almost overwhelming. Now I know that's sort of the collective aspect, but I bet it feels really overwhelming. And that overwhelm, that exhaustion, it's something that we just have to break through, right? It's really important. And I just cannot, I am just feeling really connected to this pain, and I'm feeling just incredibly motivated right now to help you guys bust out of this. So we're going to do that. So I love to pick on Missy. Missy's one of my favorite clients. When I met Missy, she is that's awesome because she's one of the most humble people ever, but also is a complete badass product director at Nike. So this is something that you guys might want to write down. How we're going to approach these symptoms, I want you to think big. Haha, did you catch my acronym? Isn't that cute? Oh, we don't see your whiteboard. You don't see my whiteboard. Let's see. How do I spotlight that for everybody? Now, can you see it? Yes, awesome. All right, we got it. Thanks, guys. I'm debugging this new whiteboard thing. So here we are, symptoms, right? Our approach is to think, and of course, that's an adorable acronym so that you remember it. Breath. Oh my God, don't leave. If you're like me 5 years ago, you see like the idea of breath, taking deep breaths, and you're like, get me out of here, right? But bear with me, I promise it'll be worth it. Okay, I is insight, and G is goal. So this is the framework that's gonna get us from point A over here to point B, sorry, okay, now the whiteboard went away. Let's see if I can actually make this work. Okay, let's see. Now are we pinned on the whiteboard? I'm so sorry, guys. Thought I had this nailed. All right, cool. Keep it coming. If we ever lose focus, please let me know. So, okay, just to review, we're thinking big. We've got our breath, B, insight, I, and goal for G. These are the questions that I want you to ask on each of these things. This is sort of a trifecta, right? And without addressing each of these three components, we're not going to be able to sort of make a transition away from point A to point B where we want to be, which we'll outline in a second. So when I first started working with Missy, we'll start with insight for her. So Missy's imposter syndrome was one of the biggest reasons why she came to work with me. She had been told that she needed more presence, but was, as usual, not given any real actionable path to doing that, right? We don't actually understand, well, most people don't understand executive presence that much. Actually, it is totally understood by science. Others make people feel awesome, be magnetic, be persuasive. We actually do understand how to do that. But for most of us, it's a big question mark, right? And so fundamentally at this starting point, right, when Missy was suffering from a lot of these symptoms, let's see, what is my belief? That's the question that I want you to ask when you're filling out this I side, right? The inside is, what is my belief? Missy's belief when she came to me was very specific. You guys might want to be filling this out too as you're going. I'm not ready. This is something that she has experienced multiple times throughout her entire life. Most of you, these beliefs, these sort of limited fear-based beliefs, they're not new, right? And if we actually distill down into exactly what this belief is, I'm not ready, we start to, like a lot of, if we're operating from that belief system, then suddenly a lot of our actions and our stagnation and our fear make a lot of sense, right? If you actually believe you're not ready, then yeah, going for something, running at your dreams is going to seem really scary, right? You just won't do it. So her goal, now part of Missy was like really into this goal, and again, this is why we started working together, was to get promoted to director of product, right? So that goal and this belief just didn't add up, right? And the result was that she slow rolled her career, right? She literally just didn't go for promotions. She had actually actively told her manager, despite all their feedback, that she was ready, told her that she wanted to kick it down the road, right? The value of having impact, that's what's actually being kicked down the road, right? So the goal gets really confused. Actually, her goal was to feel ready. And that's not something she actually has control over, right? Because her belief system doesn't serve that. So suddenly we've got these two goals that are in conflict. And clarity, sorry, this is now getting a little messy. I'll clean it up in a second. Your goal, is it clear? Put it in the chat, yes or no. Do you guys have a clear goal that you're working towards right now? Or is it muddled? Is it kind of like, oh, well, no, I want to feel ready. I want like everything to be super safe. So we've got a couple clear goals. I love it. I love it. Is the insight lining up? Is your operating system the program that's running in your brain? For those of you who do have a clear goal. All right, got a lot of muddle, a little bit of clarity, but a lot of muddle, right? And when this is your belief system, right? When this thing that I think you guys don't actually believe this, right? A big part of you knows that there is no such thing as ready, right? You're learning as you go, we all are. That's your highest self-talking. But suddenly this belief really kind of screws things up, right? So when we started our work together, because I take a holistic approach, we looked at how Missy was behaving in her in these interactions where there's pressure and her belief, I'm not ready. And sure enough, her breath was not slow, deep, and calm. What was it instead? She held it. That was a big part of it. Or it was like really light and shallow, right? So we'll go into why each of these things matters, but you can sort of see why each of these things, how this all fits together, right? Suddenly your body is betraying you, your mind is betraying you, and that leads you to not set clear goals for yourself. And when you don't have a clear goal, how the hell are you supposed to prioritize anything, right? Clarity also begets confidence. And so here you are being set up to not have clear or strong conviction about what you're doing, right? All right, and just a quick check. Can everyone please mute? If you're not muted, just double check for me. Awesome. All right, you still with me? Give me have a stretch. I want you guys to actually take a nice deep breath. I know we're going really fast. I know sometimes I can get really excited. So my breathing brings me back down. Okay, I'm gonna pin me now. Okay. Let's see, I'll see if I can get it. There's just a lot of people on today. Sorry, guys. Okay. Oh, I should have a mute all option. You're so right about that. Let's see if I can find it. I'll just do this really quick, guys. Sorry. Quick interlude. I am having a hard time finding it right now. So just in the interest of time, guys, I'm really sorry. I will ask that everyone mute if you're not. Oh, mute all. There we go. I just found it. Perfect. Okay, there we go. Yay, we did it. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you for bearing with me. All right. So switching back to our slides. Are you guys seeing the slides now? Sweet. All right. So why insight? What is the science behind this? And then what is our tool going to be to change this situation, right? So your operating belief system, right? It influences your actions. And this is another thing that I want to be super clear about, because again, it sounds super obvious, but yet with something that we don't totally buy into. If you're thinking thoughts about yourself, like I'm not ready, what do? I mean, yeah, your body's like, oh, cool, I'm not ready. Great, I'm just going to stay put, right? Or if you say, this is so scary, or I'm going to mess up, or if I fail, it'll all be over for me, right? That becomes your reality, right? And again, this is not bypassing to sort of tell you that this is all mindset. We do encounter obstacles to this. But ultimately, let's see, am I still having trouble pinning? Whoops. Come all the way back up. Can everyone see my pin? Awesome. Okay, cool. Just checking in. A couple people can't. But if you, let's see, I'll just make extra sure. Okay. So I'll spotlight for everyone and then I'll pin myself if it goes again. Sorry, I can't tell what's going on here. The beliefs you hold about yourself influence your actions, right? Again, if you think this is fine, like I'm going to figure it out as I go, then guess what? Your body, mind, all of these things align behind, cool. So I've got the information I've got and I'll get more along the way, right? Easy. This anxiety doesn't exist here, right? So the beliefs you hold about yourself influence your actions from a very practical standpoint. Hopefully this makes sense to everybody. But here's the science behind it that I want to like really reinforce. It's not actually your brain's primary job to think. I know that sounds super counterintuitive, right? But everything we know about modern neuroscience makes it abundantly clear that our brain's actual primary job is to run our core physiological systems, to keep the lights on, right? Keep our digestion flowing, our heart beating, and also keep the tiger from eating us. Right? So this is a really deep, like evolved, highly adapted system where our brain is just kind of like pattern matching and thinking thoughts and doing its thinking thing in response to the core physiological systems that are at play. So that's the core science behind this that I really want you guys to like reinforce, is that sometimes like our brain's not actually totally tuned into reality. It's just kind of doing the best it can to keep us alive. That's not typically the best resource to pull from when we're trying to take risks and follow our dreams, right? So what are we going to do instead? Tell your brain what to think. I know that sounds crazy, but I want you to try it. What do you want to believe about your work, about the promotion? Enter it in the chat. At least write it down for yourself. It's going to be super important. What do you want to believe? What does part of you probably actually believe about risks? I have a lot to offer, says Manuela. Of course you do. You're good enough. I'm good enough. I mean, that's really like the biggest part of it, right? Your ideas have value. You're worth every penny. You're smart and skilled enough. You can make a difference. You know what? Even if you make like the tiniest hair of difference, that will be so impactful to so many people, right? It's a tragedy to deprive them of that, right? You can trust your gut, you can bounce back. Even if you fail, it's not the end of the world. And let's be honest, guys, like this is part of acknowledging privilege. It's part of acknowledging it's part of leveraging this amazing community that we have, which is that failure is actually pretty hard. There's a lot of people who will like really go to bat for us before we really fail, And I really want you guys to feel into that, right? Failing forward, you can do it. Like, how about this? Failure is just data. I mean, since when are we incapable of taking data from our experiments and using it to inform the next move if you're a product leader that is literally your full-time job, right? So failing forward, yeah, what even is failure, right? Like it's just information to help us take the next step, right? This is your new belief, right? Missy's new belief was I am ready, right? This was a thing that she had to believe, or and then also once she kind of disabused herself of the need to be told she was ready or to feel ready, it opened up something for her that was like really quite powerful around collaboration, right? The idea that you would be doing it by yourself is crazy. You've just like ascended to this threshold as a person who works super hard, where your problems are so complicated, so messy, so interesting, so challenging. We're long past the realm of things having clear answers and being able to do it all ourselves. That's not actually what you want. And so what she was able to do was open up her team as a resource. And in this new role as director, really pull from the knowledge and wisdom of the people around her, which builds trust and ultimately made her even more successful, right? It's amazing. And the goal then became really clear, right? So we're over here with the triangle. I'll pin this one. And with this triangle, then the goal no longer needed to be to feel ready. The goal became to collaborate, right? And this belief became something that was in service of both of these things, right? Now, her breath, we'll get to that in a second. Place pin, there we go. All right. So we'll skip to goals first, right? So why do we set goals? You guys are all planners, like you set goals, you know the value here. I'm kind of preaching to the choir, but just to recap, okay? Goals improve performance and motivation if they meet these three criteria. They are clear, they're measurable, and they're values driven, right? If you don't actually give a shit about your goal, you're not going to get out of bed for it. Like, I think we've all experienced that and know when that's true. So your work right now, and I want you guys to, I think you actually probably know what your goal is. If you really don't, you want to reflect on it, don't worry about it. That's your homework. But if you do, enter it in the chat. Like what's your actual objective right now? And also why? What will having this goal give you? I don't want to share. I want to like kind of like put some energy and support in the group behind all of our goals. Like, let's like get them out on the table. Am I waiting for people to participate? Water. To be influential. Amazing. To get a job so you can be independent. That is super important. Influence, super important, because the more people you influence, the more impact you can have. The better our world is going to get, right? Spreading hope, like that's something that we can do in tiny ways every day, right? And also, again, a better world. Like this is something where you guys have justice. You guys have big, important dreams that the world desperately needs, right? Keep learning about what you want out of a career. Yeah, the lifelong student, rocket and job interviews, right? Show up with maximum curiosity, right? So again, I won't belabor this point. If you guys just write down on your version of this of your triangle, right, the trifecta of Think Big, I want you to just write the goal down and also add a little line about why it matters to you, to be appreciated for your experience and skills. Hell yeah, dude. Like, Dan, this is one of those things people kind of give external validation a bad rap. I don't. I think we're social animals and external validation is strictly required for us to feel healthy and happy and connected. It just can't be our only go-to, right? That'll just decrease our, it'll just decrease our versatility as people, right? Because what happens if there's no one around, right? And all of you can be appreciated for these experiences and skills. But again, set a clear goal. You know how to do this. All right. Set a goal and then set the value about what having it will give you. Okay. So Why breath? This is where we're going to invest a little bit more time, because this 5 years ago, I was in San Francisco. People are all about breathing and breath work and getting in touch with your breath and meditating and om and yoga and all that. Like I appreciate that stuff. I love yoga. But I really resisted breath work because I had this impression that it was this thing where you had to spend 30 minutes breathing in some way that's really uncomfortable. And I was like, fuck, boring. Like my mind goes places. Like I want to be up and moving, right? It just didn't work for me until I learned that it doesn't have to look that way, right? And of course, the science behind it that I simply could no longer ignore when I was working with my clients to figure out what the biggest bang for buck, like per unit of effort per minute, what is the thing that my client should do to feel awesome, feel confident, be productive, right? Feel aligned, be in touch with their power, all of this. And I just, every bit of research, it came back to the breath every time. So I could no longer deny it. Okay. So this is like, trust me, like you're just follow my lead on this one. It's going to save you a lot of time if we just go into the breath. So breath is the single biggest factor in what's called physiological regulation. If you got my emails leading up to this session, you probably you got a little primer on this. But physiological regulation is our body's ability to stay calm, cool, and collected, right? And you can probably imagine this a little bit, right? Like there was probably even a time relatively recently where you felt this way. It can be kind of a neutral thing, right? And so this is generally unremarkable, no danger around, we're all good, right? But also it's interpersonal as well. You can acknowledge an emotion in yourself without immediately reacting to it, right? To be good strategists, we can't be reactive all the time. We have to be thoughtful, slow, proactive, right? And yet here we are, leaping into action with every emotional provocation, and also being able to do this with others, noticing if someone else is upset and then not judging it, or like choosing carefully how you want to engage with it. That's what physiological regulation is. Now, this is something that I focus on in Fearless Femmes. This is one of our core things in learning about what executive presence is. Here's to demystify the science of executive presence just a little bit for you guys. There's a phenomenon called co-regulation, right? So if my ability to stay calm, cool, and collected affects your ability to stay calm, cool, and collected. If I start wigging out, you might keep your shit together, but your body will be wondering if it should be wigging out too, right? So when we're talking about having influence, when we're talking about gaining allies, building trust, making other people feel psychologically safe, being magnetic, right? With this, like, I don't know, that je ne sais quoi that like Michelle Obama has, Actually, it's not je ne sais quoi. We know exactly what it is. Her gaze, heart rate, body posture, and breathing habits are totally dialed in. She is not fleeing from a tiger, right? Which again, like our own instincts around this were evolved back when we had to flee from tigers. So glad that was there. Thanks for getting us this far, right? But ultimately, there's no tiger right here, so there's just no reason to be freaking out, right? And awareness about what's going on in your body is the thing that differentiates amazing, charismatic leaders from people who just can't be cool under pressure, right? That is executive presence. Everyone wears it differently, but this is the foundation for it. So guess what? You can manipulate how other people feel. I encourage you to use this power for good rather than evil, but there's nothing short of mind control, Jedi mind tricks. So co-regulation, they're catching a vibe. This is science for real. And again, as I said, it's the foundation of executive presence. Dysregulation, by contrast, is the opposite of regulation. And when I look at you guys' symptoms, anxiety, inaction, procrastinating, the choke, the freeze, self-doubt, which is your mind is going around with like taking signals from your body and like creating really painful narratives and stories around it. You are in a state of physiological dysregulation when you are in the throes of imposter syndrome. Everyone follow me so far? I know this is like kind of getting into the science. This is about as deep as I'll go, but like just say, yeah, awesome. Or give me a funny emoji if you're good. All right, getting some claps, that's good. All right, so dysregulation, the opposite of regulation. Dysregulation is what keeps us from being Michelle Obama, right? And special as she is, we can all be our own version of that. It is 100% available to us if we just learn how to do it. So we're going to do that a bit today. Physiological dysregulation. You guys are probably familiar with this if you took, I don't know, AP Bio. There's 4 directions that it can go: fight, flight, freeze, and appease. I'm curious which one you go to. As I mentioned in my email, I'm a flight risk. I'll like get this anxiety that will cause me to want to run away, right? And if I can't, I'll kind of like hide or shrink myself. When I was early in my product career, you know, talking to the dickhead CEO, like that was what I did, right? Barely recognized myself. Like, look at me now. Like, am I a shrinker? And yet my body was trying so hard to keep me safe that it just hijacked my whole personality, right? I see a lot of freeze. The appeasing, if that's not clear, by the way, it's just kind of saying whatever is going to make the interaction stop, whatever is going to like keep this person happy to like get off, like get out of your face, right? And generally you say for you, it depends. 100%. We all have these instincts. We tend to just be dominant, and many people are just dominant in one versus the other, right? Especially that division between fight and flight and freeze and appease. And so if you're not sure, let's talk about that for just a little bit, because I think this is super important. Part of what your job is going to be is noticing when you are in physiological dysregulation, because we're going to use the breath to tackle it. So I want you guys to pop in the kind of popcorn in the chat to give people who might like be not totally sure. What are your fight or flight symptoms? Anxiety is definitely one. Or what are your freeze or appease symptoms, right? The one freeze is, I mean, it's you literally choke, like you can't, like you stop being able to talk. You might dissociate, right? Where like you feel like you almost have an out of body experience. Shutting down. And the fight is like flushing, getting really red in the face, totally. If your heart rate increases, you get sweaty palms. Can't think of words to say. It's right. It's like your critical thinking has left the building, right? Agreeing to everything. That is such a thing that we are conditioned, especially as women, to do. Cold hands, yeah, our circulation changes. This is like crazy physical stuff that we can 100% pinpoint. That's why it's kind of crazy to think of our brain and our bodies as 2 separate things, right? So fight or flight, freeze and appease. Hopefully this kind of gives you, or impulsiveness, making brash decisions, getting super defensive, right? We're going to battle. So these are your symptoms. And I want you guys to just note them. I want you guys to write them down in your notes, and understand that when you are experiencing this symptom, I want you to just say to yourself or write down, I am experiencing fight or flight. I am experiencing freeze or appease. And then we're going to talk about what to do with it. Oops. So again, just some examples here. Anxiety, anger, increased heart rate, sweaty palms. And again, fast, shallow breathing. You see how this is getting into breath now? Freeze, appease, we got dissociation, the choke, withdrawing. You might get really tired or sleepy. That's a super common one. It might be really confusing if you don't know what's going on. Tiredness, whining, saying whatever people want. Nausea, totally. Our guts want to just get out of there because digestion takes a lot of energy, and it's taking energy away from running away from that tiger. I'm not even kidding. This is actually an adaptive, evolved system that is just still running the show. And we don't want to totally cut it off, right? The survival instincts are there for a reason, but they're just not appropriate here. It's a false positive for danger. That's how you can think of it. Okay, so back to breath. All of this is important. The reason why I'm giving you an AP Bio lesson right now is because breath is the single biggest factor in physiological regulation. There's a bunch of other things you can do, right? You might, I don't know, take a walk. You might, if there's other things that work for you, it's not that they're wrong or even necessarily less effective. But if there's one thing you do, if there is a single thing that you make time for every single day, I want it to be attunement to what's happening in your breath. When you think about the last time you had or really suffered from imposter syndrome, you might not have this because a lot of people don't pay attention to their breath. We don't pay attention to our bodies at all, unless we sort of relearn how to do that, which you're doing right now. But anyone remember what their breath was like? like, again, kind of asking this question about what the quality of your breath is, this B line on the triangle, on the trifecta. Shallow, so we're remembering it being short and shallow. Holding it, yeah, all of the holding it is definitely part of the withdrawal, right, of the freeze or appease. And hyperventilating, right, breathing really shallow and fast is like getting you ready to go to fight or flight. And this actually, just quick side note, once that physiological signaling and feedback loop kind of gets off the rails, that's when we have a panic attack. So it is, you are having a small microcosm of a panic attack in these moments where you're suffering from imposter syndrome. It is no joke, right? So paying attention to your breath, this is the next thing that I want you guys to do as homework. If you do nothing else, just pay attention. Even if I'm going to teach you some tools to like really do it that are super impactful for people. But even if you're like, meh, don't care, don't like it, just pay attention to your breath and it'll have a huge impact. All right. Okay, but you better believe I'm going to make you do some breath work right now, because when someone finally sat me down and forced me to do it, it turns out it takes about 30 seconds and you feel awesome afterwards. And it's more than just deep breath, although I think that is also really important. Again, slow, deep, calm breath is what you're going for. But if you want to kind of take it up a notch, I want you guys to just do this with me. You're already on mute. I'm not going to be, so you're going to hear me, exhale, deal with it. We're going to do one of my favorites, which is box breathing. This is good for both fight or flight or freeze and appease. So this is something that, actually your approaches, depending on which reaction you're having, will vary, but this is good for both, right? So everyone can do it. So I want you guys to just like sit comfortably in your chair, and I'll just cue you. Sort of take a deep breath, like get back in touch with your body. Sitting, by the way, compresses our organs. We can't get those deep breaths, which is why we're all so freaking stressed out at work, by the way. If we sit all day, we can't breathe right. And that is why we can't take the kind of deep breaths that our body actually needs to feel calm. I know, crazy, right? So anyway, gonna fix that a little bit right now. This is called box breathing. You can think of it, for each inhale, there's a line, then a cross line to hold that breath, a line down to exhale, and then you hold at the bottom of the exhale. So you can visualize yourself drawing a square with your breath. That's why it's called box breathing. All right, so exhale from wherever you are right now. And then in, 2, 3, 4. Hold it for 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then hold at the bottom for 4, 3, 2, 1. We're going to just do it one more time. In, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold 1, 2, 3, 4. And then let it go. So tune into the body, see what's different. Just check in. Maybe it's not that much is different. That's fine. Not every tool is going to be a wild slam dunk for people, but this is the kind of tiny edits to your life. I feel like way calmer right now. These are the kind of tiny edits that if you actually do it every single day, it's like working a muscle, right? You will be able to control yourself, which will then, by extension, as I covered, allow you to Jedi mind trick other people. But we've got to start here. If we're freaked out, it's not going to work. So the other quick thing that I won't make everyone do right now, but I love it so much. This was the one that really got me into using breath as a tool. It's called VU breathing. So I'll just do it really quick. You just inhale deeply and you make this VU sound. VU, and just fully exhale. Do it as many times. Maybe you feel like doing it if you're on mute, just like give it a shot. What it's doing is it's massaging this nerve that controls our fight or flight response. So that breath, which by the way, every breath massages that nerve a little bit, which is why it's so high leverage to focus on. Your fight or flight response, your freeze faint, is sort of contained in this, in a nerve that runs down the front and back of your body. And VU breathing literally massages it to soothe you. This is really good for anxiety and people who have the heightened response, right? Fight or flight. Any questions about that? Like anyone, which one was your favorite? tightness in the diaphragm is gone. Girl, this was what changed my life about this, is when I realized the difference between me listening and waiting for my turn to talk. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, you do. Is whether my diaphragm's relaxed. All I have to do is relax it and I'm back into listening mode and I'm the best leader I can be, right? So calm and control, that is what I like to hear. And that's all it took, right? None of this like for hours, like Vipassana retreat stuff, which, I mean, again, not dumping on it. I'm excited to do one. But this is the highest leverage thing you do. If you do one thing, make it about your breath. All right. So notice the quality of your breath. You might be feeling calmer and more clear-headed. How is it to think about your belief that you want to have? Is it easier? The same? Now that you're in this clear-headed place, your body's not sending tiger chasing me signal. Maybe risks are a little bit more manageable, right? Maybe learning something new doesn't mean danger. Maybe the unfamiliar is something you can have curiosity about rather than anxiety. This is the choice between anxiety and curiosity about what happens next. Your breath is the path to get there. More in control, absolutely. You want to feel control. Look, there's things that we can't control, right? For sure. But if you want to feel in control, it's your breath. You always have control over your breath, always. And it creates this cascade of other possibilities, slowness, all these things that great leaders do, right? I guarantee you that Michelle Obama does these sort of breathing exercises. Awesome. Okay. So here's your action plan, right? And then we'll get to questions, coaching, and I'll sort of open up for anything you guys want to talk about, here to support you. This is your action plan. This is what I want you to write on a Post-it note, right? Every single morning, I want you to spend 30 seconds tuning into your breath. Even if you just notice it, you don't have to be in the morning, but it just tends to be an easy breaking point for us. I want you to look at this story, this belief that you've written down, whether it was, I can do it, like who's ever ready? I'm curious about this thing, right? I want you to tell your brain to think that new story, breathe into it until it starts to feel true if you're waking up feeling bent. And then I want you to identify one small thing to do in service of your goal. Everything's logistics, one logistic at a time. You only have to worry about the next one because you've done this pre-work, right? You know what your goal is, you know what you have to believe to make it happen, and you've got the breath to support you every step of the way if you're having trouble believing what you need to believe. All right, so that concludes the tool. Hopefully this was super helpful for you guys. I would love to chat more. Here's the thing that I just kind of want to mention. I promised at the beginning that for anyone who wanted to get more help, I would tell you how to do that if you wanted at the end of the session. So you've got this plan, right? You're going to do it every morning. Awesome. For most people with imposter syndrome, this is a deep, decades old, I don't know, millennia old instinct that's happening for you right now. The problem that people encounter that keeps them from doing 30 seconds a day, right? Like, you definitely have time for this, right? The problem is a lack of accountability and isolation. There is sort of a belief that you're alone in this. Those thoughts could creep in. You kind of lose touch with a community that holds up a mirror to you and how powerful and in control you are. And, you know, like, we're social animals. We respond to other people and feeling accountable to them. So these are the two problems. These are the exact two problems that I help design away in Fearless Femmes. So if that sounds like it will be strategic for you, that is a really good indicator that we should hop on the phone and go over some of these things, do a diagnostic for you and see what the opportunity is, because it is probably worth it to go all in on just taking care of this, right? This is a really good root cause solution, and it's going to be like you going to the gym every day. But if you want to absolutely catapult your future, your career, and get the community that you know you need to do that, Fearless Femmes is a really great option. I'd love to talk to you about it. Again, kind of like I mentioned earlier, it's a hybrid coaching program with transformational coaching, a course, and a community that will never let you forget how awesome you are. Enough about that. The question being, how would this person that you're becoming design accountability? That's a great question for you to answer. All right, I'm gonna stop sharing. You can see my big old face. Any questions for me? Go ahead and ask them in the chat. Let's see. Gracie says the example you gave us at the beginning was in a supportive workplace. How does a coaching differ if someone experiencing imposter syndrome is in a workplace where they need to choose what feedback and criticism to ignore? Oh, there's so much here, Gracie. I want to like do justice to this question. I'm happy to talk about it one-on-one if that works for you, but I'll do my best here. So in a supportive coaching environment, or sorry, in a supportive workplace environment, it's sort of like it's like all the best conditions for a plant to grow, right? There's adequate rainwater, there's like nutrients in the soil, you're in an environment that isn't overtly hostile to you, you're probably gonna grow and flower and all of that, right? I would say that that is true for about 5% of people. So basically my answer is the default assumption is not that you have a constructive, really healthy, supportive workplace. Typically, we don't train people how to be bosses. We don't train people how to be good managers, how to connect with themselves and others. We pretend that emotions don't exist in workplace by and large, right? So we get a lot of fucked up people, pardon my French. Or people who are, sorry, I shouldn't pass judgment, people who are really struggling to varying degrees with their emotions, and it causes them to do things that are out of alignment, out of integrity, abusive, hostile, all of these things, right, that one might call fucked up. So my coaching around that, right, when you are getting a ton of input every day, maybe they're saying that you're a failure, maybe they blame and point fingers when you make a mistake, right? It is really hard to maintain your perspective that, you know what, this person in authority, they're actually wrong. And my belief is still true, right? Because at the end of the day, this is, I guess, choosing what feedback and criticism to ignore. I mean, all feedback is subjective, right? The question is how it makes you feel. There's always, right, the stronger that you get, right, the more reps you do with your own sense of agency. Here's sort of a better distillation, maybe. We work in Fearless Stems a lot on the concept of agency, right? It's this idea that when some input comes at you, right, whether it's like a sexist comment or feedback that's kind of like delivered in a brutal way, or blame for a mistake where really it, should be treated like you're growing like a human, it's easy to be reactive and go into fight or flight mode, right? It's almost like we don't have a choice. The concept of agency that I teach that uses the breath as a huge lever is slowing down the time, expanding the time between an input and your response to it. Because at the end of the day, it's not a tiger chasing you. You don't actually, it's not a split second thing where they're going to get you if you don't run away, right? This is just words, truly. So it's not unsafe for you to take a breath before responding. Now, this requires you to reprogram your body to not hijack your brain for that experience, right? So this is where we kind of deepen this practice and like flex and exercise this muscle of pausing, getting in touch with our breath, which instantly soothes us, just like you demonstrated for yourself, right? And then we ask which of this feedback should I take and which should I ignore. But also at the end of the day, you are still like, if this feedback that you're getting is making you feel really awful, there's something to be said for there's no virtue in just like enduring a consistently inflammatory environment. You can do better. There's jobs out there where cultures are not overtly hostile or not overtly triggering to you. It's, I think there's always opportunity to deepen our resolve, our resilience, but I don't want anyone to use that as an excuse to stay in an abusive situation, right? And most of us have a trauma around our work experiences, and that doesn't really get talked about. So, okay, let's see our next question. Walking through an action plan with an example. So tuning into the breath, you're right, that's actually great feedback. That I could be a little more specific about what I mean. Do the VU breathing or notice your breath. Just do it when you wake up and just tap into how you're feeling and just spend 30 seconds, just count, maybe just take 30 regular breaths. and just tune into the breath. Like notice what's going on with your body. You'll be surprised how actually challenging 30 seconds can be when we're go, 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 fix, fix, fix all the time. Your then let's see, the belief, right? The belief is just your with your insight. So you start with the breath, that's B. Your I is your post-it note with your belief on it, like I'm ready. It's on your mirror. You just stare at it. Tell your brain to think like a mantra, I'm ready, I'm ready, I'm ready. Your brain feeds that information into your body and soothes it too, just like your breath does, right? And then the goal, right, is every day you're doing something in service of this broad goal of getting a promotion or having influence, right? There's a tiny way you're going to make progress towards that. And that also creates feedback of accomplishment and positivity without overwhelm. Hopefully those examples help. I'm happy to email everyone with sort of a distillation of that so you can like see what my post-it note would look like. Awesome. All right, one more minute. So I'll try to, I will try to answer any other questions I've got. Yes, I definitely agree with what Emanuela says. In an overtly critical environment, you will start to doubt yourself. It's really awful that this is the case, but it's the work culture we exist in, which is part of the broader culture that we're in, where everyone is being bombarded with messages that they're not enough in a way that's unequal, right? Women have to deal with more of it. People of color have to deal with more of it. The more intersectional conditions you are, the more you have to overcome. But acknowledging that is super important, but also your goals are worth it. And getting the support you need to make that journey is something I want to really support everyone in doing. All right, everybody, I'll send out a link to book some time with me if you are interested in exploring Fearless Femmes and how that fits into your strategy. I will send everyone out a link. I'll type it right here just in case anyone wants to get this party started. You are welcome, guys. This was an absolute pleasure. You can go ahead and click that link, book it now. My slots fill up super fast, so get on it. I want to talk to you, and we'll just explore. Again, no pressure. This will be an exploration to see if there's alignment in getting support that looks like this. And if you want more of this, there's plenty of it. All right, guys, thank you so much for spending an hour with me. This was amazing. Hopefully that you learned a ton, and email me anytime. Just respond to that Eventbrite email, and I'm here to support you. I'll send out the link. I posted it in the chat, but I will send out the link again via email so everyone gets it. All right, lots of love, guys. Have a wonderful Friday, Junior, and enjoy your weekend.